In the vast, unforgiving expanse of the galaxy, where stars burned like distant promises and black holes whispered secrets of oblivion, Captain Eli Thorne hurtled through the void in his battered scout ship, the Asterisk Stellar Nomad Asterisk. He was no ordinary explorer. Years of charting unclaimed sectors for the Human Federation had etched lines of determination into his face, and a jagged scar across his chest spoke of battles won against odds that would break lesser men. That scar, a souvenir from a brutal skirmish with pirate raiders on the fringes of known space, pulsed faintly under his flight suit, a reminder of the plasma blast that nearly ended him. But Eli had survived, as humans always did, through sheer grit and a refusal to yield. The mission was supposed to be routine. Probe the outer rims of the Zerathia Nebula, a swirling cloud of cosmic dust rumored to hide ancient artifacts. But as his ship skimmed the nebula's edge, alarms blared. A gravitational anomaly yanked him off course, engines screaming in protest as reality warped around him. "Hold together, girl," he muttered to the Asterisk Nomad Asterisk, his hands flying over the controls. It was no use. The ship plummeted into the heart of the nebula, shields flickering against invisible forces that tore at the hull like hungry claws. When consciousness returned, Eli found himself sprawled on a crimson-sanded beach under a sky streaked with auroras of blood-red light. His ship lay in ruins nearby, smoke curling from its wreckage. He groaned, pushing himself up, every muscle aching. The air was thick, laced with a metallic tang that set his nerves on edge. This wasn't just any planet. This was Zerathia Prime, the forbidden world of the vampiric Dominion, home to the immortal aliens who ruled half the galaxy through fear and eternal hunger. Legends spoke of them. Ethereal beings who fed not on blood, but on the very essence of life, siphoning vitality from lesser races to sustain their undying forms. They were beautiful, deadly, and utterly ruthless, their queen a figure of myth who could bend stars to her will. Humans had steered clear for centuries, knowing that to trespass meant becoming prey. But Eli was here now, stranded, with no comms and no backup. He checked his sidearm, still charged, and scanned the horizon. Towering spires of obsidian rose in the distance, silhouetted against the glowing sky, a city that pulsed with an otherworldly energy. As he trudged toward it, survival instincts kicking in, he felt eyes on him. Shadows moved in the periphery, graceful forms gliding through the mist. They were upon him before he could react, guards, tall and lithe, with skin as pale as moonlight and eyes that glowed like embers. Their armor shimmered with bioluminescent veins, and they wielded staffs that hummed with energy. "Intruder," one hissed, voice like silk over steel. Eli raised his hands, but they bound him with ethereal chains that drained his strength, pulling him toward the heart of their domain. The palace was a marvel of alien architecture, halls lined with crystalline walls that reflected infinite versions of himself, each one more weary than the last. He was dragged before a throne of living shadow, where she sat, the vampire queen herself. Lyra, they called her, ruler of Zerathia. She was breathtaking, a vision that stole the air from his lungs. Her hair cascaded like freshly fallen snow, framing a face of porcelain perfection, with pointed ears that twitched subtly, like those of ancient earth elves in forgotten tales. Her body was a masterpiece of curves, draped in a gown of flowing silk that clung to her form in ways that hinted at forbidden desires, the fabric shimmering with embedded gems that caught the light and drew the eye to her graceful neck and ample bosom. Lyra's eyes, deep violet pools swirling with ancient power, fixed on him. She rose, her movements fluid as a predator's, and the air grew heavy with her presence. The guards forced Eli to his knees, but he met her gaze defiantly. "A human," she murmured, her voice a melody that echoed in his mind, sending shivers down his spine. "How quaint, you dare breach our sacred world?" Eli swallowed, his throat dry. "It wasn't by choice, Your Majesty. My ship crashed. I'm just trying to get home." She circled him slowly, her fingers trailing the air inches from his skin, as if tasting his aura. "Home? Mortals like you have no home in the stars. You are fleeting sparks, while we are eternal flames." Yet there was curiosity in her tone, a flicker of interest that belied her cold demeanor. She stopped before him, tilting his chin up with a single, cool finger. Her touch was electric, sending a jolt through his body. That's when her eyes fell on the scar peeking from the tear in his suit. She paused, her breath catching, a rare vulnerability in an immortal queen. With deliberate slowness, she reached out, her hand hovering over the mark. Eli tensed, expecting pain, but when her palm pressed against it, a warmth spread through him, unlike anything he'd felt. Lyra's eyes widened, her body trembling as visions flooded her mind. Flashes of Eli's life, his battles, his unyielding spirit. The scar, born of human resilience, resonated with her essence, pulling at the void in her undying heart. This mark, she whispered, her voice laced with awe. It calls to me, it's where my heart belongs. The declaration hung in the air, shocking her courtiers into silence. Eli stared, confusion warring with the strange pull he felt toward her. In that moment, the galaxy shifted, binding a mortal man to an eternal queen in ways neither could yet comprehend. As the weight of her words settled, Lyra pulled back, composing herself, but the connection lingered like an unspoken promise. You will not leave, human, not until I understand this bond. She gestured, and the guards released him, though their eyes remained watchful. Eli stood, rubbing his wrists, his mind racing. What had just happened? Was this some vampiric trick or something deeper? The queen turned away, but not before he caught a glimpse of longing in her eyes, a crack in her immortal facade. Guided to chambers within the palace, Eli paced the opulent room, its walls alive with holographic stars that mimicked the nebula outside. He was a prisoner, yet treated like a guest, with food that revitalized him and a bed that molded to his form. But sleep evaded him, haunted by Lyra's touch. What did she mean by his scar being her heart's anchor? Humans and aliens had mingled before, but this felt profound, as if fate had woven their threads together. Dawn on Zerathia brought no sun, only a shifting glow that bathed everything in ethereal light. Eli was summoned to the queen's private gardens, a labyrinth of bioluminescent flora that pulsed with life. Lyra awaited him there, alone, her gown even more revealing in the soft illumination, the fabric parting to reveal the curve of her hip as she moved. Tell me of this scar, she commanded, though her tone was softer, almost pleading. Eli hesitated, then unfastened his suit, exposing the jagged line across his chest. It was from a fight. Pirates ambushed my convoy. I took a hit meant for a friend, nearly died, but I fought through it. Humans, we don't give up easily. Lyra approached, her fingers tracing the scar again, igniting that same warmth. This time, she didn't pull away. In our kind, scars are weaknesses, erased by our essence, but yours, it sings of strength, of a heart that beats fiercely against the dark. Her eyes met his, and for the first time, Eli saw vulnerability in the Queen of Immortals. She leaned closer, her breath mingling with his, the air charged with unspoken desire. As their lips nearly brushed, a distant rumble shook the ground, alarms echoing through the palace. Intruders, Lyra snarled, pulling back. Eli grabbed his gear, ready for whatever came. Together, they rushed to the throne room, where holographic displays showed a fleet of rival ships piercing the nebula's veil. The cosmic threat had arrived, drawn by the anomaly that stranded him here. In the chaos, Eli's human ingenuity shone. He barked suggestions, reroute power to shields, exploit the nebula's gravity wells, ideas born from mortal desperation that the vampires, bound by tradition, hadn't considered. Lyra watched him, admiration growing, as her forces rallied under his improvised tactics. The battle was fierce, energy lances cutting through space, ships exploding in brilliant flares. Eli manned a turret, his scar throbbing as if alive, fueling his resolve. When a boarding party breached the palace, Eli fought hand-to-hand, his sidearm blazing against vampiric foes enhanced by stolen essences. Lyra joined the fray, her powers unleashing waves of draining energy that withered enemies. But in the heat of combat, she was struck, a lance grazing her side. Eli rushed to her, shielding her with his body, his scar pressing against her wound in a desperate bid to staunch it. The contact amplified their bond. Lyra's eyes flared as his essence flowed into her, healing her faster than her immortality allowed. You give freely. She gasped, wonder in her voice. The invaders retreated, defeated by the unlikely alliance. In the aftermath, as repairs began, Lyra pulled Eli aside. Your scar isn't just a mark, it's a bridge between our worlds. She kissed him then, a fierce, passionate claim that ignited fires within them both. The galaxy's threats loomed, but in that moment, mortal and eternal found solace in each other. Yet whispers of greater dangers stirred, ancient cosmic entities awakening, drawn to the bond that defied the stars. Eli knew this was only the beginning, his human heart now entwined with an alien queen's undying soul. As the echoes of the battle faded into the nebula's haze, Eli found himself alone with Lyra in the shadowed recesses of her private sanctum, a chamber hidden deep within the palace where the walls seemed to breathe with the rhythm of distant stars. The air hummed with residual energy from the fight, charged particles lingering like unspoken words between them. His scar still tingled from where it had pressed against her wound, a phantom warmth that mirrored the growing heat in his veins. Lyra moved with a predatory grace, her white hair shimmering under the soft glow of floating orbs, cascading over shoulders that curved invitingly beneath her silken gown. The fabric, a deep crimson weave embedded with threads that pulsed like veins, clung to her body in ways that accentuated every swell and dip, her full breasts rising with each breath. The gown's low neckline teasing the pale expanse of her skin, and slits along the sides revealing long, toned legs that ended in delicate, bare feet adorned with glowing anklets. She turned to him, her violet eyes darkening with a hunger that went beyond the essence her kind craved. "You fought like no other, Ili," she murmured, her voice a silken caress that wrapped around his name, making it sound like a forbidden incantation. "You're kind, so fragile, yet you burn brighter than any eternal flame I've known." She stepped closer, the space between them shrinking until he could feel the cool aura of her immortality brushing against his warmer, mortal skin. Ili's pulse quickened, not from fear, but from the intoxicating pull that had ignited when she first touched his scar. It was as if that jagged mark had become a conduit, drawing her essence into him and his vitality into her, blurring the lines between predator and prey. He reached out instinctively, his hand grazing her arm, feeling the smoothness of her white skin, flawless yet alive with an inner luminescence that made her seem carved from starlight. "What is this, Lyra? This connection?" His words came out rough, laced with the adrenaline still coursing through him. She didn't pull away. Instead, her small, elf-like ears twitched slightly, a subtle sign of her intrigue as she leaned in, her breath cool against his neck. "It's a bond forged in the fires of your resilience," she whispered, her fingers trailing up his chest, lingering over the scar that now felt like a living entity between them. "My heart, undying as it is, has wandered empty for eons, but here," she pressed her palm flat against the mark, and a shiver ran through both of them, a shared current that made Ili's breath hitch. The sanctum's atmosphere grew thicker, the floating orbs dimming to an intimate twilight, casting long shadows that danced across her form. Lyra's gown shifted with her movement, the fabric parting just enough to reveal the curve of her hip, a glimpse that sent a jolt of desire through Ili. He was no stranger to the star's temptations. Human explorers often found solace in fleeting encounters across galaxies, but this was different, deeper, laced with a suspense that hung like a veil over what might come next. What if this bond was a trap, her way of siphoning his life force slowly, seductively? Yet the way her eyes softened, the vulnerability flickering in those violet depths, told him otherwise. She was the queen of immortals, ruthless in her rule. But in this moment, she seemed almost human, needy, drawn to the very mortality she had long despised. Ili's hand moved of its own accord, cupping her face, his thumb brushing over her full lips, which parted slightly under his touch. "You're not what the stories say," he said, his voice dropping to a husky timbre. "Cold, heartless, I see fire in you." Lyra's response was a low, throaty laugh that vibrated against his skin, sending ripples of anticipation through him. She pressed closer, her body molding against his, the sensual swell of her breasts brushing his chest through the thin barrier of his suit. The contact was electric, her coolness meeting his heat in a tantalizing contrast that made every nerve ending come alive. "And you, mortal, are a flame that could consume me," she replied, her hands sliding down his sides, fingers deftly finding the fastenings of his suit, undoing them with a deliberate slowness that built the tension like a coiling spring. As the suit peeled away, exposing more of his scarred torso, Lyra's gaze devoured him, her pointed ears flushing a faint pink, a rare sign of arousal in her kind. The scar stood out starkly, a rugged testament to his battles, and she traced it with her tongue, a bold, erotic gesture that made Ili groan. The sensation was exquisite, a mix of cool wetness and the subtle pull of her essence, drawing him in deeper. Suspense hung in the air. Would she feed on him now, turn this intimacy into domination? But no, her actions were reverent, almost worshipful, as if his human imperfections were the key to unlocking her guarded desires. "This mark," she breathed against his skin, "it's my anchor. Feel it, Ili, feel how it binds us." He did feel it, a surging warmth that spread from the scar, pooling low in his belly, igniting a fire that demanded release. Ili pulled her closer, his hands exploring the luxurious curves of her body, slipping under the gown slits to caress the smooth, firm skin of her thighs. Lyra arched into his touch, a soft moan escaping her lips, her white hair falling like a curtain around them as she tilted her head back, exposing the elegant line of her throat. The eroticism of the moment was palpable. every brush of skin against skin building a rhythm that mirrored the pulsing lights outside. Yet beneath it all lurked the shadow of uncertainty. Whispers from the palace corridors spoke of cosmic entities stirring, ancient beings that fed on anomalies like their bond. What if this intimacy awakened them further, drawing peril to Zerathia? Lyra seemed to sense his hesitation, her violet eyes locking onto his with an intensity that stripped away doubts. "Don't think of the stars now," she urged, her voice a seductive command as she guided his hand higher. The warmth between her legs, where her body's response was undeniable, slick, and inviting, a testament to how his mortal touch affected her immortal form. Ellie's breath came in ragged bursts, the suspense coiling tighter as he teased her, fingers exploring with a gentleness that belied his warrior's strength. She gasped, her small ears quivering, and pushed him back onto a plush divan that materialized from the shadows, its surface soft as velvet under them. Straddling him, Lyra's gown fell open like petals unfurling, revealing her fully, the pale, glowing skin, the pert peaks of her breasts tipped with a faint luminescence, her hips grinding against his in a slow, deliberate dance that drove him to the edge. The erotic tension was exquisite torture, each movement a promise of more, suspended in the haze of their shared desire. Ellie's hands roamed freely now, cupping her breasts, thumbs circling the sensitive tips until she whimpered, a sound so vulnerable from a queen that it fueled his own arousal. "Lyra," he growled, flipping them so he hovered above her, his scar pressing against her chest like a brand. The contact amplified everything, their heartbeats syncing in an impossible harmony, her undying pulse quickening to match his mortal one, as he kissed his way down her body, tasting the sweet, metallic tang of her skin. The palace trembled faintly, a distant quake from the nebula's unrest, or perhaps the awakening threats drawing nearer. But in this suspended moment, nothing mattered but the erotic build between them. Lyra's fingers tangled in his hair, guiding him lower, her legs parting in invitation. The air grew heavy with their mingled scents, a heady mix of human sweat and alien allure, as Ellie's mouth found her most intimate spot. She cried out, her body arching in ecstasy, the suspense shattering into waves of pleasure that rippled through them both. Yet even as they lost themselves in the rhythm, the bond deepening with every touch, Ellie couldn't shake the growing sense of foreboding. The cosmic entities weren't just legends. Scouts had reported strange anomalies at the nebula's edge, shadows that moved with purpose. What if their union was the catalyst, a beacon calling destruction? Lyra pulled him up, her lips claiming his in a fierce kiss that tasted of eternity, her hands working to free him fully, stroking him with a skill that made stars explode behind his eyes. The erotic suspense peaked as she positioned herself above him, sinking down slowly, inch by inch, enveloping him in a tightness that was both cool and searing. Ellie thrust up to meet her, their bodies moving in perfect, frenzied sync, the divan creaking under the intensity. Moans filled the sanctum, hers melodic and haunting, his raw and grounded, blending into a symphony of forbidden passion. Every thrust built the tension higher, a coil of desire and danger intertwined, until release loomed like a supernova, but just as climax neared, a sharp alarm pierced the haze, a breach in the outer defenses. Lyra froze, her eyes widening, but she didn't stop, riding the wave harder, as if defying the universe itself. "Not now," she hissed, her nails digging into his shoulders, drawing him deeper into the erotic storm. Ellie matched her ferocity, the suspense of impending peril only heightening the pleasure, their bond a shield against the encroaching dark. In that whirlwind of sensation, as pleasure crested and shattered them both, Ellie realized the truth. This wasn't just lust, it was a fusion of souls, human resilience taming eternal hunger. Yet the alarms blared on, pulling them back to reality, where greater threats awaited beyond the sanctum's walls, as the alarms wailed like banshees through the palace corridors, shattering the intimate cocoon of their passion. Ellie and Lyra broke apart with a gasp, their bodies still humming from the explosive release that had just washed over them. Sweat glistened on Ellie's skin, mixing with the faint glow of Lyra's essence that seemed to linger on him like a second skin, while she adjusted her gown with trembling hands, her violet eyes flashing with a mix of frustration and fierce determination. The bond between them pulsed stronger now, a living thread that made every sensation shared, his racing heart echoing in her chest, her immortal calm steadying his nerves. "The breach," she said, her voice cutting through the din like a blade. "It's not just remnants of the fleet. Something ancient stirs, feel it, Illy?" The nebula itself trembles. He did feel it, a deep, ominous vibration rumbling through the sanctum's floors, as if the planet's core was awakening in protest. Illy zipped up his suit hastily, grabbing his sidearm from the divan, his mind shifting from lover to warrior in an instant. Lyra led the way, her white hair whipping behind her like a banner of defiance as they burst into the throne room. Holographic displays flickered erratically, showing chaos outside, the nebula's swirling mists parting to reveal colossal shadows, massive, tentacled forms emerging from the void, ancient cosmic entities that legends whispered about as the devourers of stars. These weren't mere invaders, they were primordial beings, drawn by anomalies in the fabric of reality, and their bond, that inexplicable fusion of mortal scar and eternal heart, had lit a beacon in the dark. Guards rushed in, their pale faces etched with terror, staffs humming as they formed a defensive line. "My queen, the barriers are failing?" One shouted, his voice cracking. Lyra's expression hardened into that of the ruthless ruler Ili had first encountered, but now laced with a protective fire born from their connection. "Mobilize the essence wards. Ili, with me, we face this together." There was no time for questions. The palace shook violently, crystalline walls cracking as tendrils of shadow pierced the outer defenses, siphoning life from the air itself. Ili's scar burned, a warning flare that sent jolts of energy through him, heightening his senses to an almost superhuman level. Curious whispers invaded his mind, fragments of ancient knowledge from Lyra's essence, revealing that these devourers fed on bonds like theirs, anomalies that disrupted the galaxy's balance. They sprinted through collapsing hallways, debris raining down as the entity's influence warped reality. Ili dodged a falling beam, pulling Lyra out of harm's way just as a shadow tendril lashed out, grazing her arm and drawing a hiss of pain from her lips. "They're targeting us," he realized, his voice thrumming with thrill and dread. "Our bond, it's like catnip to them." Lyra nodded, her small elf ears flattening against her head in concentration, as she unleashed a wave of vampiric energy, draining the tendril's vitality and turning it to dust. But more came, a thrilling onslaught that turned the palace into a battlefield of light and void. In the heart of the storm, they reached the nebula core, a vast chamber housing the planet's power source, a swirling orb of captured starlight that powered Zerathia's defenses. Here, the drama unfolded in full force. The orb pulsed erratically, corrupted by the devourer's touch, and in its glow, Ili saw visions, flashes of his past battles merging with Lyra's eternal memories, a curious mosaic that hinted at a greater purpose. Why him? Why this scar? The questions burned as brightly as the threats closing in. Surprising even himself, Ili felt a surge of human ingenuity flood him. He grabbed a nearby console, his fingers dancing over alien controls he'd never seen, guided by the bond's intuition. "Reroute the essence flow, use the orb to amplify our connection." He yelled over the roar. Lyra's eyes widened in surprise, a dramatic pause amid the chaos. "That's madness, it could consume us both." But there was thrill in her voice, a spark of curiosity about this mortal's audacity. As tendrils breached the chamber, wrapping around guards and draining them dry in horrifying shrieks, she joined him, her hand over his on the controls. Their touch ignited the system. The scar on his chest glowed, channeling his resilience into the orb, which flared with unprecedented power. The room filled with blinding light, the devourers recoiling as waves of amplified essence blasted outward, shredding their forms. Yet the climax built relentlessly, one massive entity, larger than the others, a behemoth of writhing shadows with eyes like black holes, smashed through the ceiling, its presence sucking the air from the room. Ili's breath came in gasps, the thrilling pressure crushing down as it focused on them, a psychic assault that bombarded their minds with visions of devoured worlds. "You are the anomaly." It boomed in their thoughts, a voice like grinding galaxies, mortal and eternal entwined, delicious, but forbidden. Lyra staggered, her immortality faltering under the onslaught, but Ili stood firm, his human stubbornness a shield. "Not today," he growled, pushing more of his vitality through the bond, surprising her with the depth of his strength. In a dramatic surge, they synchronized, the orb becoming an extension of their union. Lyra channeled her undying heart through his scar, creating a feedback loop that turned the chamber into a vortex of power. The entity lunged, tendrils whipping like cosmic whips, but Ili dodged with agility born from battle-hardened instincts, firing his sidearm into its core while Lyra drained its essence in great gulps. The thrill peaked as the behemoth convulsed, its form unraveling in a spectacular display of exploding shadows that lit the nebula like a dying star. Guards cheered weakly from the sidelines, but the surprise came in the aftermath. As the entity dissolved, it released a burst of ancient data, curious revelations embedded in the light. Floating holograms materialized, showing forgotten histories. The Devourers weren't just destroyers, they were guardians of balance, awakened by bonds like theirs because such unions could reshape reality. Eli's scar, it revealed, wasn't random. It was a remnant of an ancient human artifact, a key to bridging worlds, hidden in his lineage from Earth's lost eras. Lyra stared, her hand clutching his, dramatic emotion welling in her eyes. You're more than mortal, this bond, it's destiny. The thrill of survival mingled with curiosity about what this meant for them, for Zerathia, as smaller entities retreated into the void, leaving the palace in ruins but their spirits unbroken. But the drama wasn't over. Faint tremors hinted at more awakenings deeper in the nebula. Eli pulled Lyra close, their foreheads touching, bond humming with new intensity. "We stopped them for now," he said, his voice laced with surprising resolve. "But there's more out there, isn't there?" She nodded, her white hair disheveled yet beautiful, her body pressing against his in a mix of exhaustion and lingering desire. The chamber quieted, save for the orb's steady pulse, now stabilized by their combined essence. Guards began repairs, casting odd glances at the human who had tamed not just their queen, the stars themselves. As they stepped out into the recovering halls, Eli felt a curious pull toward the nebula's heart, visions teasing at greater secrets. What other surprises lurked in his scar's history? The thrilling high of the climax lingered, but so did the dramatic weight of unanswered questions, binding them tighter in the face of the unknown. Lyra's fingers intertwined with his, a silent vow amid the ruins, as they prepared for whatever cosmic storm brewed next. As they emerged from the nebula core's glowing chamber into the recovering halls, where vampiric engineers scurried like shadows mending the cracked crystalline walls, Eli's mind raced with the holographic revelations still dancing in his periphery, ancient human artifacts tied to his scar. A lineage of cosmic keys he never knew existed. The pull toward the nebula's heart grew stronger, a magnetic whisper urging him deeper into Zerathia's mysteries. But Lyra's hand in his grounded him, her cool fingers a reassuring anchor amid the drama unfolding around them. Guards bowed low as they passed, murmuring in awe about the human who had turned the tide, their pointed ears twitching with unspoken questions. Yet the air hummed with tension. Faint tremors rippled through the palace floors, hinting that the Devourer's retreat was merely a pause, not an end, and greater storms loomed on the horizon. Lyra squeezed his hand tighter, her violet eyes scanning the corridors with a queen's vigilance. "We must consult the archives," she declared, her voice carrying that melodic authority that made Eli's heart skip, part thrill, part the lingering afterglow of their bond. "The data burst from that entity. It changes everything. Your scar isn't just a mark of survival. It's a relic, Eli, a piece of forgotten history that could unravel our worlds." He nodded, trying to process it all, but as they turned a corner into a grand antechamber lined with floating data orbs, an awkward interruption shattered the moment. A cluster of her courtiers, still dusted with battle debris, froze in mid-conversation, their pale faces turning toward the intertwined hands with wide-eyed shock. One of them, a lanky advisor with ears that seemed comically oversized even for their kind, cleared his throat dramatically. "My queen, and the, human consort." The word consort hung in the air like a misplaced asteroid, eliciting a ripple of hushed gasps. Eli felt his cheeks flush, a battle-hardened explorer blushing like a cadet on his first shore leave, while Lyra's grip tightened, her composed facade cracking just enough to reveal a flicker of amusement mixed with exasperation. "Advisor Kale," she said coolly, though her lips twitched, "your timing is as impeccable as ever. Yes, this is Eli Thorne, the one who just saved your eternal hides. Perhaps show some gratitude instead of gawking like you've never seen a mortal before." Kale stammered, his white skin turning a faint shade of lavender, apparently the vampiric equivalent of embarrassment. "Forgive me, Majesty, it's just the bond." The entire court felt it ripple through the essence network. "It's unprecedented." The other courtiers nodded vigorously, one young attendant dropping a data orb that bounced comically across the floor, rolling to a stop at Eli's feet. He picked it up, handing it back with a wry grin. "Here, don't lose your marbles over me." The pun landed awkwardly in the translation field. Vampiric humor evidently didn't include Earth idioms, but it drew a surprised chuckle from Lyra, heightening the drama of the moment into something almost theatrical. The court erupted in nervous laughter, the tension breaking like a dam, though Eli couldn't shake the feeling of being a specimen under a microscope. As they pressed on toward the archives, The awkwardness escalated. Whispers followed them like echoes, speculating on the mortal's influence over their queen. One bold attendant even approached, bowing low. Humanly, is it true your kind? Reproduces without essence sharing? How quaintly primitive. Eli shot Lyra a sidelong glance, his eyebrows raised in mock offense. Primitive, says the species that still uses thrones in the space age. Lyra stifled a laugh, her hand covering her mouth. But the drama intensified when they entered the archives, a vast dome of swirling holographic tomes, guarded by sentient drones that scanned intruders with piercing lights. The head archivist, an ancient vampire named Vexa with hair as white as Lyra's but eyes faded to a milky purple, floated forward on anti-grav pads, her gown billowing like a dramatic cape. Queen Lyra, the stars weep at this intrusion, and with him, she idly as if he were a glitch in the Matrix, her small elf ears pinning back in disdain. The archives are sacred, mortals taint the purity. Lyra's expression darkened, heightening the room's tension to a palpable edge. Vexa, this mortal just repelled the devourers. His scar holds keys to our salvation or doom. Scan it, now. Vexa's face twisted in reluctance, but she complied, waving a scanner over Eli's chest. The device hummed, then screeched in overload. Sparks flying as holographic data exploded outward, revealing layered histories. Ancient Earth experiments with cosmic energies, scars imprinted with quantum locks, and prophecies of a scarred bridge uniting realms. Eli stared, the drama of his own heritage unfolding like a plot twist in a bad Hollywood. Wait, so my great-grandpa wasn't just a miner, he was tinkering with alien tech. That's awkwardly family reunion material. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch sending that familiar warmth through him, but Vexa interrupted with a gasp. Impossible, the bond. It's evolving, Queen, your essence is merging with his mortality. If it deepens, you could. Age. The word age dropped like a bomb, courtiers murmuring in horror. Lyra paled, but Eli, ever the human injecting humor into crisis, quipped, hey, wrinkles build character. You'd look great with laugh lines. The attempt at levity fell flat at first, Vexa sputtering in outrage, but Lyra's lips curved into a genuine smile, diffusing some of the drama. Only you could joke about eternity's end. Eli? Yet the awkward situations piled on. As they delved deeper into the scans, the holograms glitched, projecting intimate visions from their earlier sanctum encounter, shadowy silhouettes of entwined bodies, moans echoing faintly through the speakers. The court froze, eyes wide, and Eli wished for a black hole to swallow him. Technical malfunction? He muttered, face burning. Lyra, composure cracking, waved her hand to shut it down, but not before Kale whispered loudly. Majesty, such vigor from a mortal. Laughter bubbled up unwillingly from the group, turning the dramatic revelation into a farce. Though the underlying tension simmered, if the bond could project private moments, what else might it reveal or attract? Pushing through the embarrassment, they uncovered more. The devourers weren't fully repelled. A splinter entity had embedded in the nebula's core, feeding on the anomaly of their union, growing stronger. Drama heightened as alarms blared again, subtle at first, then insistent. It's calling reinforcements. Vexa warned, her voice trembling. Eli felt the pull intensify, his scar throbbing like a beacon. We have to go in, confront it at the source. Lyra nodded, but the awkwardness peaked when she addressed the court. I go with Eli alone. The bond is our weapon. Protests erupted, a queen venturing into the void with a human. But she silenced them with a glare. Though Eli caught her hand shaking slightly in his, they geared up in a rush, Eli donning a vampiric exosuit that hugged his form awkwardly tight, pinching in all the wrong places. This thing's designed for your slender builds, feels like it's trying to vacuum seal me. He grumbled, adjusting with a humorous wiggle that made Lyra snort. Endure it, my brave consort, she teased, heightening the intimacy amid the drama, as they boarded a sleek shuttle, launching into the nebula's swirling mists. The entity's presence loomed larger, psychic whispers taunting them with visions of failed bonds from eons past, lovers torn asunder. Realms collapsed, the shuttle shuddered, tendrils grazing the hull, and Eli piloted with human flair, dodging anomalies with loops that left Lyra gripping her seat. Is this flying or flirting with death? She exclaimed, a mix of thrill and awkward fear in her eyes. He grinned. Both keeps things exciting. But drama crested as they neared the core, a massive vortex of shadow, the splinter entity manifesting as a colossal eye, staring into their souls. It broadcast doubts, mortal fool, you taint her eternity, heightening the emotional stakes. Lyra faltered, visions of aging flashing, but Eli pulled her close. We're in this together, scars and all, in a surprising twist of humor amid the tension, ill-equipped. Hey, Big Eye, ever heard of privacy? Stop peeping. The entity recoiled slightly, confused by the levity, giving them an opening. They linked hands, channeling the bond through the shuttle's amplifiers, the scar glowing as they blasted essence waves into the vortex. The entity writhed, dramatic explosions lighting the nebula, but it countered with a psychic blast that flung them into an awkward tumble, Lyra landing atop Eli in the cockpit, their faces inches apart. Not the time. She breathed, but her eyes sparkled with reluctant amusement. As the battle raged, heightening to a fever pitch, they synchronized perfectly, Eli's ingenuity disrupting its patterns, Lyra's power draining its core. The entity shattered in a spectacular burst, debris scattering like cosmic confetti, but not without a final awkward revelation. It released echoes of Eli's ancestors, holographic ghosts applauding their union. Great! Now my dead relatives are watching, Eli muttered, drawing a laugh from Lyra even as exhaustion set in. Shuttle limped back, the drama ebbing into quiet triumph, but questions lingered. How deep would the bond go? What other entities might awaken? Lyra leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. You turn chaos into comedy, Eli, it's endearing. He smiled, the awkward moments forging them stronger, as Zerathia loomed ahead, a world forever changed by a scarred human and his eternal queen. As the shuttle docked with a gentle thud in Zerathia's orbital bay, the quiet triumph of their victory settled over them like a warm nebula mist, leaving behind the lingering questions that swirled in Eli's mind. How far could this bond truly extend, and what unseen forces might still lurk in the shadows of the stars? Lyra's head remained nestled against his shoulder, her white hair spilling softly over his arm, a rare moment of vulnerability from the eternal queen that made his heart swell with an affection he hadn't anticipated. Endearing, she had called his humor, and in the dim glow of the cockpit lights, Eli turned to her, his smile deepening as he brushed a strand from her face. The awkward echoes of the battle and the court's prying eyes felt distant now, replaced by a shared intimacy that pulled them closer, the bond humming between them like an unspoken invitation. They stepped out into the bay, where repair drones buzzed efficiently, mending the shuttle's hull, but Lyra waved off the waiting attendants with a subtle gesture. Leave us, she commanded softly, her violet eyes never leaving Eli's. The guards hesitated only a moment before retreating, sealing the bay behind them and granting a pocket of privacy in the vastness of the palace complex. The air here was warmer, infused with the faint scent of blooming alien flora from nearby hydroponics, and Eli felt the tension of the day melt away as Lyra took his hand, leading him toward a concealed alcove overlooking the nebula's swirling colors through a massive viewport. We faced the void together, she murmured, her voice a gentle melody that wrapped around him. Now, let us celebrate life our way. Eli's pulse quickened at the implication, the bond amplifying every sensation, making his skin tingle where her fingers intertwined with his. The alcove was a hidden retreat, furnished with plush lounges that conformed to the body like a lover's embrace, soft lights dimming to mimic the intimacy of twilight on a distant world. Lyra turned to him fully, her gown shifting with a whisper of fabric, the slits along its sides revealing the graceful lines of her legs as she stepped closer. Her small, elf-like ears twitched ever so slightly, a sign of her growing anticipation, and Eli couldn't help but trace the curve of her jaw with his thumb, feeling the cool smoothness of her pale skin warm under his touch. Lyra, he breathed, the word carrying the weight of their shared battles and desires. You've shown me eternity. Let me show you what it means to be alive in the moment. She responded with a soft, inviting smile, her hands rising to the fastenings of his exosuit, undoing them with deliberate care that built a delicious tension. The suit fell away, exposing his scarred chest, and Lyra's gaze lingered there, her fingers tracing the jagged mark that had become the heart of their connection. It pulsed gently, sinking their breaths, and Eli pulled her into his arms, their bodies pressing together in a way that ignited sparks along every point of contact. Her curves molded against him perfectly, the soft swell of her breasts against his torso, the gentle arch of her back as she leaned in for a kiss that started tender but deepened into something more urgent, more profound. Their lips met with a hunger born from the day's perils, tongues dancing in a rhythm that mirrored the nebula's swirling patterns outside. Eli's hands explored her form, slipping beneath the gown's flowing fabric to caress the silky skin of her waist, drawing a quiet sigh from her that sent shivers down his spine. The bond heightened everything, the way her body responded to his touch, arching instinctively, the subtle glow of her skin intensifying as desire built. Lyra guided him to the lounge, easing him down onto its welcoming surface before straddling him gracefully, her white hair cascading like a veil around them, framing her face in an ethereal glow. The gown parted naturally, revealing more of her elegant figure, and Eli's breath caught at the sight, her body a vision of otherworldly beauty, toned and inviting, with a natural allure that made his heart race. He reached up, cupping her face as they kissed again, his other hand roaming lower, tracing the contours of her hips and thighs with a reverence that made her tremble. "You're incredible," he whispered against her lips, and she responded by pressing closer, her movements fluid and teasing, building the anticipation until it was almost unbearable. The alcove's lights dimmed further, casting them in a soft, intimate ambience, and Lyra's hands worked to free him completely, her touch gentle yet insistent, eliciting a low groan from deep in his chest. The connection between them amplified the pleasure, making every caress feel like a shared wave of warmth, their essences intertwining in ways that blurred where one ended and the other began. As they came together fully, the moment was one of pure, harmonious union, slow at first, savoring the closeness, the way their bodies fit as if designed for this very purpose. Eli moved with her, his hands on her waist guiding the rhythm, building to a steady cadence that had them both breathing heavily, soft sounds of contentment filling the space. Lyra's eyes locked onto his, violet depths swirling with emotion, and the scar on his chest seemed to glow faintly, channeling his vitality into her, enhancing the sensations until they crested in waves of ecstasy. It was more than physical. It was a fusion of souls, her eternal grace meeting his mortal passion in a dance that left them both breathless, bodies entwined in the afterglow. They lingered there, wrapped in each other, the nebula's lights painting patterns across their skin as heartbeats slowed and synced once more. Eli traced lazy circles on her back, feeling the subtle rise and fall of her breaths, while Lyra rested her head on his shoulder, her fingers idly playing with the edges of his scar. "This bond," she said softly, her voice laced with wonder, "it makes me feel alive in ways I never imagined." He chuckled lightly, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "And you make me feel like I could conquer the stars." The intimacy deepened their connection, but even in this serene moment, the faint tremors from the nebula reminded them of the larger threats simmering beyond, yet for now, they allowed themselves this respite, exploring each other further with gentle touches and whispered affections. Eli's hands wandered again, rediscovering the curves that had captivated him, drawing soft murmurs from Lyra as she responded in kind, her cool fingers igniting warmth wherever they roamed. The second time was slower, more exploratory, a tender reaffirmation of their union that built gradually to another peak of shared bliss. Sweat mingled with the faint luminescence of her skin, creating a subtle sheen that made her look even more radiant, and Eli marveled at how this immortal queen could yield so completely to a human's embrace. As they lay spent, limbs tangled in comfortable disarray, the bond pulsed with contentment, a silent promise amid the quiet. But the universe rarely granted peace without interruption. A soft chime from the viewport console broke the spell, a message from the court, urgent but not immediate, reporting stabilized defenses yet warning of anomalous readings deeper in the nebula. Lyra sighed, her body shifting against his in a way that stirred lingering desire, but she rose reluctantly, adjusting her gown with a graceful poise. "Duty calls, my love," she said, the endearment slipping naturally from her lips for the first time. Eli sat up, pulling her back for one more kiss, deep and lingering, before helping her fasten the gown. "We'll face it together," he assured her, the intimacy forging an unbreakable resolve. As they prepared to rejoin the world, the questions about the bond's depths and the awakening entities loomed larger, but so did their strength, born from battles won and passions shared. The alcove faded behind them as they stepped out. Hand in hand, ready for whatever cosmic twists awaited, their connection a beacon in the eternal night. As they stepped out from the alcove's secluded embrace into the bustling corridors of the palace, where attendants moved with renewed purpose under the stabilized glow of repaired crystalline lights, Eli felt the bond between them pulse like a living star, a constant reminder of the passions they'd shared and the battles they'd won. Lyra's hand in his was a steady anchor, her elegant fingers cool against his warmer skin, and she walked with a queen's poise, her white hair swaying gently, catching the ethereal hues of the nebula visible through distant viewports. The message from the court still echoed in his mind, those anomalous readings deeper in the nebula, subtle shifts that could be remnants of the Devourers or something new entirely. "We'll address the council first," Lyra said, her voice carrying that melodic resolve he had come to adore. They need to see us united, unbreakable. Ili nodded, squeezing her hand, his scar tingling faintly as if echoing her words, but a nagging curiosity tugged at him. Whispers from the bond hinting at hidden layers yet to unfold. The Grand Council chamber awaited them. A vast dome alive with holographic projections of Zerathia's defenses, stars twinkling like jewels on a velvet canvas. Courtiers and advisors filled the tiered seats, their pale faces turning as one when Lyra and Ili entered, murmurs rippling through the air like waves in a cosmic sea. Advisor Kale stood at the forefront, his oversized ears twitching nervously, holding a data orb that pulsed with urgent red light. My queen, the readings are confirmed energy signatures matching the Devourer's, but fragmented, as if echoing from within. Lyra ascended the dais, pulling Ili with her, their presence commanding silence. Echoing? Explain. Kale activated the orb, and holograms bloomed, swirling patterns in the nebula's core, faint but growing, intertwined with signals that mirrored the rhythm of Ili's heartbeat of their bond. As the council debated, voices rising in a symphony of concern, some advocating isolation, others aggressive strikes, Ili felt a strange dizziness creep in, the scar on his chest warming unnaturally. Visions flickered at the edges of his mind, fragments from the bond, not just shared emotions, but memories that weren't his own. Or were they? He blinked, trying to focus, but Lyra noticed, her violet eyes narrowing in concern. Ili, what is it? Before he could respond, the holograms shifted, zooming in on a hidden anomaly, a buried signal within the nebula, broadcasting on human frequencies. The room fell deathly quiet as the signal decoded itself, coordinates, mission logs, and a voice, his voice, from before the crash. Federation Operative Thorne. Infiltration protocol engaged. Memory suppression active. Target: Vampire Queen Lyra, acquire essence tech for humanity's ascension. The words hung in the air like a detonating star, shattering the chamber's composure. Ili staggered back, his mind reeling as suppressed memories flooded in a cascade of briefings on Earth. Covert ops training, the scar not from pirates but an implanted device. A neural lock designed to interface with alien essences. He wasn't just an explorer, he was a spy, sent to seduce or steal from the heart of Zerathia, his crash engineered to seem accidental. The bond, in its deepening fusion, had unlocked the seal, forcing the truth to surface. Lyra's hand slipped from his, her face a mask of betrayal, violet eyes widening in shock. You were sent here to deceive me. The council erupted in chaos, guards drawing weapons, advisors shouting accusations of human treachery, while he clutched his chest, the scar burning as if tearing him apart from within. No, he gasped, the surprise twisting like a knife in his gut. I didn't know. The memories, they wiped them. I thought it was real, all of it. But the holograms didn't lie. They played back logs of his pre-mission prep, cold and calculated, a human plot to harness vampiric immortality for the Federation's wars against galactic rivals. Lyra stepped back, her gown swirling like a storm, her small elf ears flattening in anguish. Our bond? Was it all a fabrication? Your scar, the anchor, was it designed to ensnare me? The powerful twist hit Ili hardest. He had fallen for her genuinely, the suppressed operative persona clashing with the man he believed himself to be. Flashes assaulted him, injections on a Federation ship, tech embedding in his wound to mimic resilience, drawing her in like a moth to flame, humanity's cunning, turning scars into weapons. Guards surrounded him, staffs humming with draining energy, but Lyra raised a hand, halting them, her voice cracking for the first time in eons. Stand down, I need answers. The drama escalated as she approached, her fingers hovering over his scar, the bond still pulsing despite the revelation, a testament to its authenticity amid the deception. Touching it sent jolts through them both, shared visions confirming the twist. The Federation had studied ancient artifacts, reverse engineering vampiric bonds to create synthetic anchors, planting them in operatives like Ili. But something unforeseen had happened. The bond had evolved beyond control, becoming real, intertwining their essences in ways that defied programming. It's not just a tool, Ili whispered, tears stinging his eyes. I feel it us. The memories are back, but so is everything we've built. I love you, Lyra, not because of some mission, but in spite of it. The council watched in stunned silence, the surprise rippling outward, a human spy turned genuine lover, his betrayal unwitting yet profound. Kale stammered. Majesty, if the bond is compromised, the nebula's anomalies. They could be Federation signals drawing their fleet. Indeed, As if on cue, alarms blared anew, holograms showing human warships emerging from hyperspace at the nebula's edge, cloaked until now. The twist deepened. Eli's unlocked memories revealed the full plan. His signal, activated by the bond's peak, had summoned reinforcements. Humanity poised to claim Zerathia as a prize. Lyra's face hardened, but her eyes held a storm of emotions, betrayal warring with the undeniable pull between them. "You brought war to my door," she said, voice low and trembling, "yet you've given me a heart I never knew I needed." Eli dropped to his knees, the weight of the revelation crushing him, but he reached for her hand. "Let me fix this. Use the bond, let me contact them, turn them back." The surprise wasn't just the twist of his identity, it was the choice it forced upon them. Lyra hesitated, the chamber tense, guards ready to strike. Then, in a move that shocked even her court, she pulled him up, pressing her palm to his scar. "Together, then, if this bond is our doom, let it be our salvation too." Visions surged through them, Federation codes, override protocols embedded in his implant, and Eli broadcast a desperate message, laced with vampiric essence to scramble their systems. Mission aborted. Anomaly contained, return to base. The warships faltered, some veering off, but others pressed on, loyalists ignoring the recall. The battle loomed, heightening the stakes, but the twist had forged something new. Eli, no longer just human or spy, but a bridge between worlds, his scar the key to either unity or destruction. Lyra stood by him, her body close, the bond defying the deception that birthed it. "You've surprised me, Eli Thorne," she murmured, a faint smile breaking through the pain. A mortal who tamed eternity and perhaps broke it too. As defenses rallied, the nebula churning with incoming fire, Eli felt the full impact of the revelation. His life, a lie unraveled by love, now hung on the thread of their connection. Would the bond hold against the fleet's assault? The council mobilized, strategies forming around this unforeseen alliance, but whispers of doubt lingered. Could a spy truly be redeemed? Lyra's touch grounded him, her curves pressing against his side in a subtle show of solidarity, her white skin glowing faintly as she drew strength from him. The surprise twist had upended everything, turning hero into potential villain, yet in the chaos, it sparked a deeper resolve. Energy lances streaked across the viewports, the first salvos hitting shields, rocking the palace. Eli manned a console, his unlocked memories providing Federation tactics to counter them, weak points in their formations, codes to jam communications. Lyra amplified it through the bond, her essence weaving into the defenses, creating barriers that drained enemy vitality mid-flight. Ships exploded in brilliant flares, but the lead vessel broadcast a hail. "Operative Thorne, report. Extraction imminent." Eli's voice, steady despite the turmoil, responded. "Extraction denied. This is my home now." The twist culminated in that declaration, surprising even himself, a spy choosing love over duty, humanity's tool becoming its greatest defector. The fleet fragmented, some retreating under the onslaught, others pressing in a desperate charge. In the heart of the storm, Eli and Lyra synchronized perfectly, her powers flowing through his scar like a conduit, unleashing waves that withered enemy hulls. One final twist emerged from the bond's depths. A buried protocol in his implant, activated by true emotion, self-destructing the Federation's override, severing his ties forever. As the last ship fled into hyperspace, silence fell, the nebula calming. Lyra turned to him, eyes soft with forgiveness. "The surprise is mine, my love, you've chosen us." But echoes of the twist lingered, the bond now fully awakened, revealing hints of greater cosmic roles. What other secrets hid in his lineage? The council applauded warily, the drama resolving into uneasy peace, but Eli knew the real battle was internal, reconciling the man he was with the one he'd become. Lyra's kiss sealed it, passionate and reaffirming, as they stood amid the stars, bound tighter by the unexpected truth. As the last echoes of the retreating Federation ships faded into the nebula's depths, leaving behind a trail of debris that glittered like fallen stars against the void, Eli and Lyra stood side by side on the palace's observation deck, their hands still clasped in a grip that spoke of hard-won trust. The bond thrummed between them, a steady rhythm now laced with the raw edges of revelation, his unwitting betrayal transformed into a choice of loyalty, her forgiveness a bridge over the chasm of doubt. The council below buzzed with activity, advisors scrambling to reinforce shields and scan for lingering threats. But up here, in the quiet expanse overlooking Zerathia's crimson horizons, Eli felt the weight of it all pressing down. "We've turned the tide," he said softly, turning to her, his eyes searching the violet depths of hers for any lingering shadows. Lyra's lips curved in that faint smile, her white hair catching the soft light, but her small elf ears twitched with unspoken tension. For now, my love, but the stars rarely forgive such upheavals. Come, we must address the court. They deserve the full truth. They descended together, the palace halls alive with the hum of repairs, vampiric workers weaving essence threads to mend cracks in the walls, their pale forms moving like ghosts in the dim glow. As they entered the council chamber once more, heads turned, the air thick with anticipation and an undercurrent of unease. Advisor Kale stepped forward, his oversized ears practically vibrating with nerves, holding a fresh data orb that pulsed erratically. Majesty, the human fleet's retreat is confirmed, but anomalies persist. Echoes in the bond's frequency, ripples that could draw more eyes from the void. Lyra nodded regally, but as she moved to the dais, Ili trailing close, a dramatic hush fell, all eyes locked on them, whispers igniting like sparks. The spy who saved us. Her heart anchored to a deceiver. The drama heightened instantly. The room a powder keg of immortal intrigue, every courtier leaning forward as if witnessing a galactic opera unfold. Lyra raised her hand for silence, her gown flowing like liquid shadow, accentuating her curves in a way that drew Ili's gaze despite the tension. The bond stands, she declared, her voice echoing with queenly authority. Eli Thorne was sent as a tool of humanity, but he has chosen Zerathia, chosen me. His scar, once a weapon, is now our shield. Murmurs erupted, some approving, others laced with skepticism. Then, in a move that amplified the drama to near breaking point, Vexa the archivist floated forward, her faded eyes narrowing. Prove it, mortal. If the bond is true, submit to the essence trial, a ritual to bare your soul before us all. Ili's stomach twisted. He'd heard whispers of it through the bond, a public merging of essences, vulnerabilities exposed for the court to judge. Lyra's face paled slightly, but she nodded. So be it. For trust, the ritual chamber was a cavernous space deeper in the palace, walls lined with glowing essence veins that pulsed like a heartbeat, the air heavy with an incense that made Ili's head swim. Courtiers filed in, forming a circle around a central platform where a crystalline altar awaited, humming with power. Ili stripped to the waist at Lyra's gentle urging. His scar stark under the lights, while she stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder. The awkwardness hit like a comet. Here he was, a human spy turned lover, about to bear his innermost self to a room full of immortals who eyed him like an exotic specimen. This feels like the worst job interview ever, he muttered to Lyra, trying to lighten the mood with a wry grin. She stifled a chuckle, her fingers squeezing his. Humor in the face of eternity? Only you, Ili? But her voice held a dramatic quiver, heightening the stakes. This trial could solidify their alliance or shatter it if any deception lingered. Vexa began the chant, her ancient voice weaving through the air, drawing essence from the walls into swirling tendrils that encircled them. Ili felt the pull immediately, the bond amplifying as memories flooded out, not just his, but theirs projected holographically for all to see. Flashes of his Federation briefings played out, cold and calculated, drawing gasps from the crowd. Traitor! Someone hissed, drama spiking as guards shifted uneasily. Then came the intimate moments, their first touch, the sanctum's passion, the alcove's tender union, shadowy silhouettes dancing in the air, sounds echoing faintly. Ili's face burned, the awkwardness peaking as courtiers averted eyes or whispered, one young attendant dropping her staff with a clatter. "Oh stars, not again," Ili groaned under his breath, "my private life's on rerun." Lyra's cheeks flushed a rare lavender, but she held her head high, her body pressing closer to his in solidarity, her curves a comforting presence amid the exposure. Humor crept in unexpectedly when a memory glitched, Ili's quip about wrinkles during the archive's fiasco replayed, drawing reluctant laughs from the crowd. "The mortal mocks eternity," Kale exclaimed, but his tone held amusement, diffusing some tension. Yet the drama surged back as deeper layers unveiled. Ili's true feelings, unscripted and raw, pouring out his genuine awe at Lyra's strength, his choice to defy the Federation not from programming, but from love. The court murmured in surprise, Vex's chant faltering as the essence revealed no hidden malice. But then, a heart-wrenching twist in the projections, visions of Lyra's past loneliness, eons of ruling alone, her heart a void until his scar filled it. Tears glistened in her eyes, heightening the emotional storm, as courtiers wiped their own, moved by their queen's vulnerability. Awkwardness escalated when the ritual demanded a physical merge, Lyra's palm pressing fully to his scar, their bodies aligning in a pose that was intimate yet public, her gown slits revealing more than intended as she leaned in. Whispers turned to coughs, one advisor muttering, This is no place for affection. Ili, sweat beading on his brow, cracked. Hey, at least buy us dinner first, folks. The line landed, chuckles rippling through the tension, but Lyra's soft laugh against his chest grounded him, her breath warm despite her cool skin. The essence flowed stronger, binding them visibly in glowing threads, the drama cresting as pain lanced through Ili, the implant's remnants fighting back, a final Federation safeguard trying to sever the bond. He gasped, doubling over, the court erupting in alarm. It's rejecting. Vexa cried, heightening the panic. Lyra held firm, channeling her immortality into him, her curves pressing against his side as she whispered encouragements. Fight it, Ili, our way. Humor flickered even here, as sparks flew from his scar, Ili quipped through gritted teeth. Feels like a bad breakup, can't this thing just ghost me? Laughter broke the fear, courtiers rallying with supportive chants, but the drama intensified, the implant's code manifesting as holographic phantoms, Federation officers demanding compliance. Ili battled internally, his human resilience clashing with the tech, sweat slicking his skin as Lyra's essence bolstered him, their merged auras pushing back, in a climactic surge. The bond overwhelmed the implant, shattering it in a burst of light that rocked the chamber. Ili collapsed into Lyra's arms, the awkward position leaving them tangled on the platform, her gown disheveled, his bare chest heaving. The court stared, then erupted in applause, trust earned through vulnerability. He is true. Vexa conceded, her voice awed, but as Ili caught his breath, humor returning. Next time, let's skip the group therapy. Lyra helped him up, her eyes sparkling with relief and affection, yet drama lingered. Alarms chimed softly, a new anomaly, larger than before, stirring in the nebula's heart, drawn by the ritual's energy. They moved swiftly to the command center, the court trailing, awkward alliances forming as advisors now clapped Ili on the back, one joking, "Welcome to the family, Scarman." The holograms showed it, a colossal entity, not devourer but something ancient, a guardian of bonds from the visions, awakening to test their union. Drama heightened as it broadcast psychic waves, challenges of loyalty, visions of alternate fates where Ili's deception won or Lyra's heart remained empty. "It's judging us," Lyra breathed, her hand on his scar. Ili felt the pull, awkward doubts resurfacing, but he squared his shoulders. "Then let's give it a show." The entity manifested as a swirling vortex outside the palace, tendrils probing defenses, forcing a confrontation. Ili and Lyra boarded a fighter craft, the court watching via feeds, the awkwardness of their public intimacy now a strength. "Pilot like you mean it," Lyra teased, strapping in beside him, her body close in the tight cockpit. He grinned, "Hold on, time for some human flair." They launched into the nebula, dodging energy lashes with loops that left Lyra gripping her seat, laughing despite the danger. "You're insane," she exclaimed, but her eyes shone with thrill. The drama peaked as they neared the core, the Guardian's voice booming in their minds. Bond forged in deceit, prove its purity or perish. It unleashed illusions, Federation ships returning, courtiers betraying, Lyra aging before Ili's eyes. He faltered, awkward tears stinging as he saw her beauty fade, but humor cut through. "Wrinkles suit you, remember?" Snapping her from the trance, they linked through the scar, channeling united essence. The craft's weapons amplified by their fusion. Tendrils whipped, rocking them, but Ili's ingenuity shone, using the nebula's gravity to slingshot blasts back at the entity. In a heart-pounding clash, they pierced its core, the bond's truth overwhelming it. The Guardian dissolved in a cascade of light, releasing waves of energy that stabilized the nebula, but not without a final awkward gift. Visions of future children, hybrid heirs, human resilience mixed with vampiric grace. Ili blinked, face flushing. "Kids, talk about jumping ahead." Lyra's laugh echoed, dramatic relief washing over them as they returned triumphant. The palace celebrated, but whispers of greater cosmic roles persisted. What if more guardians awoke? Ili pulled Lyra aside amid the festivities, their bodies close in a quiet corner. "We've got this," he said, kissing her deeply, the awkward journey forging unbreakable love. Yet the stars twinkled with promise and peril, hinting at adventures yet to come. As the celebrations in the palace grand hall swelled around them like a symphony of eternal voices, vampiric courtiers raising crystalline goblets filled with glowing essence, their laughter echoing off the repaired walls in waves of relief and newfound unity. Ili held Lyra close in that quiet corner, their kiss lingering like the aftertaste of a star's birth. Her lips, cool yet fervent, pressed against his with a passion that had weathered betrayals, battles, and the very fabric of reality itself. The awkward twists of their journey, the public rituals, the humorous deflections amid chaos had only woven their bond tighter, turning what began as a cosmic accident into an unbreakable tapestry. He pulled back slightly, his forehead resting against hers, feeling the subtle twitch of her small elf ears as she exhaled, her white hair framing their faces like a veil of starlight. "We've got this," he repeated, his voice a whisper amid the revelry, but the stars outside the viewport twinkled with that promise of peril, a reminder that their story was far from a simple epilogue. Lyra's violet eyes met his, swirling with emotions that spanned eons, love, forged in the fires of doubt, now shining brighter than any nebula. "Yes, we do," she murmured, her fingers tracing the scar on his chest through his suit, the mark that had once been a tool of deception but now pulsed as the heart of their shared destiny. The festivities continued, but she gently tugged him away, leading him through hidden passages that wound deeper into the palace's core, away from prying eyes and the court's lingering whispers. The air grew warmer here, infused with the faint hum of Zerathia's life force, and Eli felt a sense of peace settle over him. The kind that comes after storms have passed and horizons clear. Yet, as they walked, hand in hand, he couldn't ignore the faint tremors still rippling through the floors, subtle echoes from the nebula, hints that the Guardian's defeat had awakened something more profound, a cascade of cosmic balances shifting in response to their union. They emerged into Lyra's private observatory, a domed sanctuary where the ceiling dissolved into a panoramic view of the stars, constellations mapping out stories older than time. The room was bathed in soft, ambient light from floating orbs that mimicked distant galaxies, and in the center stood a reflective pool of essence, its surface rippling like liquid silver. Lyra released his hand only to gesture toward it, her gown swaying gracefully, the fabric clinging to her curves in a way that still stirred something deep within him. "This is where I come to reflect," she said, her voice carrying a quiet reverence. "To see beyond the veil. Our bond has changed everything, Eli, not just for us, but for Zerathia, perhaps the galaxy itself." He stepped closer to the pool, peering into its depths, where visions began to swirl, glimpses of hybrid futures, worlds where humans and vampires coexisted, scars becoming symbols of alliance rather than wounds. Eli turned to her, his human heart swelling with a mix of awe and humility. "I came here as a stranger, worse, as a pawn in someone else's game, but you saw something in me, in this scar, that even I didn't know was there." He reached out, pulling her into his arms, feeling the elegant lines of her body fit against his like pieces of a puzzle long scattered. Lyra leaned into him, her head resting on his shoulder, her white skin glowing faintly in the observatory's light. "And you gave me a heart, Eli. For eons, I ruled with cold precision, feeding on essences without truly living. Now, I feel every beat, every risk. It's terrifying and beautiful." Their embrace deepened, the bond humming between them, amplifying the warmth that spread from his scar to her core, a gentle reminder that mortals could indeed tame the eternal. As they stood there, the pool's visions intensified, drawing them in like a shared dream. Eli saw himself not as a spy or explorer, but as a partner in a greater legacy, leading joint expeditions with Zerathian fleets, humans sharing their ingenuity while vampires offered their undying wisdom. Lyra's hand slipped to his waist, her fingers tracing patterns that sent shivers through him, and she whispered, "Look closer." The surface shimmered, revealing a prophecy etched in ancient runes. The Scarred One and the Eternal Queen, guardians of the balance, their union a beacon against the void's endless hunger. But the images shifted to warmer scenes, quiet moments on distant worlds. Laughter echoing in halls filled with friends from both races, even the playful chaos of children with pointed ears and resilient spirits, hybrids who would bridge galaxies. Eli chuckled softly, the sound breaking the observatory's serene hush. "Kids, huh? From spy to space, Dad, talk about a plot twist." Lyra's laugh joined his, melodic and light, her body shaking gently against him. "Only if you promise to teach them your terrible jokes." The humor eased the weight of the visions, turning cosmic destiny into something intimate, achievable. They sat by the pool's edge, legs dangling over the reflective surface, talking for hours as the nebula outside calmed into a peaceful swirl. Eli shared stories of Earth, sunsets over oceans, the simple joy of a home-cooked meal, while Lyra recounted forgotten vampiric lore, tales of stars birthed from lovers' essences. Their conversation flowed naturally, vulnerabilities laid bare without the drama of trials or battles. Just two souls connecting in the quiet aftermath. Yet, as the night cycle deepened, a final tremor shook the observatory, not destructive, but resonant like a call from the stars. The pool rippled violently, and a new vision emerged. A distant threat, shadows gathering at the galaxy's edge, ancient entities stirred by the ripples of their bond. Eli tensed, but Lyra placed a calming hand on his scar. "It's coming," she said softly, "but not today. We've earned this peace, and when it arrives, we'll face it as we have everything else together." He nodded, pulling her closer, their bodies entwining in a comfortable hold that spoke of trust earned through fire. The bond pulsed reassuringly, a promise that no matter the storms ahead, their love would be the anchor. In the days that followed, Zerathia transformed. Eli became an official consort, his human perspectives integrated into council decisions, fostering alliances with the Federation through careful diplomacy, messages sent via the bond's amplified signals, proving that scars could heal divides. Lyra, invigorated by her newfound emotions, reformed ancient laws, allowing essence sharing with willing mortals, creating hybrids who embodied the best of both worlds. The court, once skeptical, now celebrated their union with festivals that blended human humor and vampiric elegance, awkward dances where immortals tried Earth-style waltzes, laughter ringing as pointed ears bobbed to unfamiliar rhythms. One evening, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the crimson sands where Eli had first crashed, the nebula painting the sky in vibrant hues, he turned to her with a ring forged from essence-infused metal, a human tradition adapted to eternal vows. "Lyra, will you bind your heart to mine, not just through scars, but through choice?" Her eyes glistened, a rare tear tracing her pale cheek, and she slipped the ring on, her voice steady yet filled with joy. "I already have, Eli, but yes, 1,000 times yes." Their kiss under the stars sealed it, the bond flaring brightly, illuminating the night like a new constellation. Years blended into a tapestry of adventures, exploring uncharted sectors, thwarting lesser threats with their combined strength, raising a family that defied galactic norms. Their children, with Eli's resilient spirit and Lyra's graceful power, became legends in their own right, ambassadors of unity. The scar on Eli's chest faded slightly over time, but its essence remained, a symbol that humanity's flaws could become strengths, a taming even the undying. In the end, as they aged together, Lyra choosing to embrace a touch of mortality for him, wrinkles etching stories on her timeless face, they sat in that same observatory, watching the stars. "No regrets?" Eli asked, his hand in hers, scarred and smooth intertwined. She smiled, leaning into him, her curves still captivating after all the eons. "None. You showed me that eternity is nothing without love." And as the nebula swirled on, their story became a beacon for the galaxy, a reminder that in the vastness of space, a single bond could light the way home. As the nebula swirled on, their story became a beacon for the galaxy, a reminder that in the vastness of space, a single bond could light the way home. Eli and Lyra's legacy endured, inspiring countless souls to embrace the unknown with open hearts. Personally, I love how this tale weaves romance with epic sci-fi, showing humanity's strength in vulnerability. It's a thrilling ride. What do you think? Could humans really tame alien hearts like this? Thank you all for joining this adventure. Your likes, subs, comments, and shares are our biggest motivation to create even better stories. Hit that button and let's explore more.